Hello there. Thank you, everybody, and thank you for those that joined the session this afternoon. I know it's been a long and interesting few days, so really delighted that you've chose to come and listen in to us here today. Delighted to welcome you to a session hosted jointly between the ISSA Education and Training for Prevention section and the ISSA Section for Prevention in Transportation. My name's Alison Van Koolen, and I'm joined here as co-moderator by Dr. Nadia Schilling. Over the next hour and a half, we'll be bringing you 4 brilliant presenters, and then we're going to have a short panel discussion. So I know we're already a few minutes over. So without any further ado, Dr. Schilling.
Yes, also warm welcome from my side. As Alison already said, my name is Nadia Schilling, and I head the Department of Research and Projects at the BG Verkehr, the German accident insurance institution for commercial transport, and I'm also the Secretary General of the section, so happy to be here. Without further ado, because I think we have interesting topics to talk about, I would like to welcome our first speaker, Sylvester Siegmann. Mr. Siegmann is an experienced safety engineer and operational safety manager. Since 1995, he has been involved in occupational medicine and safety research and teaching at the Heinrich Heine University in Düsseldorf. Beyond academia, he has led occupational health trainings for medical associations and founded his own safety service. Today, Mr. Siegmann will tell us about new methodological approaches and skills for occupational safety and health training. His innovative concept prepares future leaders for a culture of safety aligned with the Vision Zero. So please join me in welcoming Sylvester Siegmann.
Yes, hello. Thank you. And I think we can make a little round table here in front the whole time. And so, yes, I'm today here. I want to speak to you and speak about how we make safety and health for our students in Germany. Because our students must have the same rights for health and safety, and it's not so easy because students are students, and they make a little bit what they want, but we must speak about it. According to German regulations, the rules of safety and health and well-being also apply to students. At the University of Düsseldorf, Germany, we were faced with the question how to implement this with available resources for 36,000 students. We have people at the Safety and Health Department for 7,000, and we must look what we do with the rest of the 36,000, because the DGUV regulations number 2 don't say that we get more people for students. So we must make it with the same department for all students. That's a big problem. As a first step, we want to look what's thinking about our students about safety and health, what is their meaning about it. And as a first step, our task was to investigate the attitudes and experiences of medical students as a pilot project with regard to safety, health and well-being. At the beginning of the winter semester, participants in the first semester instruction, so the first 2 weeks they are at this university, were surveyed. At the time, the online survey, the participants were not yet familiar with the faculty's e-learning modules, and safety and health, an online survey tool developed specially for the project was used here. Yes, and that's what talked us about other students. Here you see the items, and here you see, yes, at the left side, and more no, at the right side, and you see I was already instructed in health and safety during my training. Only nearby 25% say yes, the rest had never heard something about safety and health when they was at school, when they was in the first 3 years in the working. I was already instructed in health and safety during school. Only 25% who say yes. But when we think on our school time, are someone from you instructed in safety and health in the school? Not. Nobody. That is not good. I already knew previously that I was insured against accidents through the university. Nearby 90% say yes. I say why. I already had a needle stick injury. It's for medical students, the risk number 1 we have there. I have already had a road accident, only 10-15%. You see, the most having contact to accidents or working accidents. Then, when we see, I expect that my medical studies will place high demands on me with regard to data protection. All say yes nearby. I expect that my medical studies will place high demands on me in terms of hygiene protection against infection. Yes, the most see it. And then here we go, that's normal answers. I'm willing to risk a little injury to accomplish a task. Here they say, with rather agree, over 50%, that they would go a little bit in risk to make their job. And at the same time, the same people say, I find it important that my health does not decline as a result of my study conditions. We are looking, yes. I influence other students violate safety rules, yes. And I find safety and health instructions in studies good. Nearby 90% say yes, total agree, rather agree. And they find the instruction okay, understandable. Nearby 100% say that it was very okay. What we see here at the first step. Overall, only about 50% of the participating students has already received instruction at school or as a part of a vocational training. Some students, before they come to the university, they make a vocation as Krankenschwester, as nurse or so. Less than 20% had completed vocational training before starting their studies. The majority had not experienced an accident at work or on the way to work at the time of the survey. Surprisingly, more than 80% of participants knew that they are covered by accident insurance through the university. At that point, we think they were not really clear about the difference between a normal health insurance and a German social accident insurance. They don't know the difference. Why should someone who has never had an accident or has never be instructed in safety and health know the difference between the normal health insurance and the DGUV? And almost 100% of participants consider it important that their health is not compromised by their studies. Over 90% consider safety and health training to be important. However, around 40% of participants would be willing to accept a minor injury in order to complete a task. It is crucial that future employees are made aware of safety and health at work during their training studies. Young people's interest is greater than expected, And it's absolutely important that we make this training with the studies. And what we have to develop based on this. Participation on the training is a mandatory under the Heinrich Heine University's medical study regulations. Otherwise, re-registration for the following semester is not possible. They must come to the instruction, so we have 100%. No participation may delay the studies, no bedside teaching or practical training is possible. So normally when they don't come to the training, the study is at this point finished. how we make it here in the years. In the first year, everybody became, in the first 2 weeks, a face-to-face instruction. We know we have so much tools in the internet or on videos, or on videos. We want that they have face-to-face combined with e-learning modules in the first 2 weeks. Anyone who misses this appointment for a valid reason, Erasmus students that came later to us, must complete the basic modules at SA. This is an e-learning tool where you have different modules they can learn by themselves. Further specific instructions must be provided during the practical training, if necessary, with SA components. In the second year, all students must complete the SA basic modules plus certain advanced modules if applicable. Further specific instructions must be provided during the practical trainings, when they go to bedside teaching, when they go to the chemistry. In the third year, against the face-to-face, they must have. In the fourth year, again, SAW, also e-learning modules. And in the fifth year, they have face-to-face instructed by the department of the university. The first 4 years I make it, and in the last year, they must go to our department, so we have another trainer. They see, oh, now it's my last year, and now it will be hard, and then they go to other clinics, and so they must go to them. Here you have a look on our e-learning modules. They are very good. We have worked very hard of it. This is the first one, students that work for the medical students only. This is only in German. We plan to make it in the next time in English too. This was a pilot project, and so we tried it only in German. They have face-to-face complementary for the face-to-face instructions. Then they have a wiki at work, so they can look who are the people, they can speak with them when they come, when they have a problem or so. They know something, they can read when they want. Here is an example for hygiene and dermatologic safety. They have different modules, nearby 14 different modules for the students in the e-learning. And then in the second step, we make it for all students of the university, not only for the medical students, for all students and for the staff on the same base. And that we have a university in German and in English. And so we have here modules for students, for university employees, and for external staff that come to work at the university. Here you see that is for the faculties. We have for every faculty different modules, and they can go here inside and learn what they have to learn by e-learning modules here on this way. Thank you. And we hope our students are happy with this essays, and that's the first step. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this illustration of all the dimensions of what needs to be done and where a lack of information is, and also showing us how to tackle it. And with that, I would like to move on to our next speaker, Lars Tornvik. Lars Tornvik is the director of Human House, one of Denmark's leading consultancies in leadership and occupational health and safety, with 30 years of strategic experience. Mr. Tornvik serves as the president of the Danish Vision Zero Council, championing the mindset focused on eliminating workplace accidents through leadership and prevention. And today he will emphasize the critical role of management in achieving a high level of prevention by leading by example. He'll share practical insights and a Vision Zero framed leadership training approach. And with that, I'm looking forward with all the guests to your presentation.
Thank you, Nadja. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation. Yes, as you mentioned, my presentations today will focus on Vision Zero, Golden Rule number 1, which is take leadership, management engagement, and I will give an example on how we can engage management via a safety leadership training course that we have some experience with in Human House. And it is demonstrate leadership, lead by example. So it's more about not just words, but also in action. How can we as managers, also in action, in daily actions, focusing on a high prevention level in safety, health, and well-being. Just brief introduction to Human House. As you mentioned, Nadia, we are a major consultancy in leadership in OHS in Denmark. We are authorized in all aspects of the working environment, and we really like the Vision Zero mindset a lot. And we've been working with this for, I think, 6 or 7 years now with a lot of Danish and international companies. We really like the simplicity of the Vision Zero mindset, the mindset that we aim to prevent accidents and work-related illnesses from happening. We really like the 7 golden rules. It's easy to understand, even for managers. It's an easy approach, and it's evidence-based. So it's based on safety science research. And that is also important when we talk to managers, that there are evidence behind what we are asking them to do. We have a Vision Zero newsletter, and we have been co-authoring the ISSA Vision Zero Guide on Wellbeing. We are also host of the Danish Vision Zero Council, which consists of more than 20 of the major Danish international companies. We have a lot of collaboration with some of the youth body. You can see we are members of some of the sections, committees in ISSA. We also have a fruitful collaboration with ISSA, and we've been part of this global initiative for safety, health, and well-being in planning and in the executive committee. Well, let's start. I only have a few minutes, so this will just give you an idea on this course that we have done in several larger Danish companies, focusing on the management commitment to a high prevention level on safety. Let me say first, one of the things we have learned is that if we need to address management, it's a good idea to talk their language. So this is an example on using a model called Why, What, How, which is a well-known management tool in strategic planning. So we have translated this Why, What, How into why is it important that we as managers prioritize a high prevention level on safety. So part of the course is focusing on the why. Then there's the what. What must we do differently if we want to move to a higher prevention level on safety? And at the end of the course, they will focus on how do we do it when we return to our departments or the area of our responsibilities. Let me just give you a few examples on some of the things that we focus on in this course. In the area of the why, you can look at it from a management perspective with different angles. You can look at it as legislation. There are some laws saying that you have the responsibility of health and safety, at least in Denmark, and I think in many other European countries as well. Then there are a lot of research in this area saying management commitment is crucial if we want to work at a high prevention level in avoiding accidents and work-related sick leaves. Then there's this example. It's a good investment. There's a lot of studies showing this. This example that we use is from the ISSA report, where they interviewed almost 340 companies in 19 different countries on the return on investment in working with your health and safety. They came to a figure that for every $1 you invested in good working environment, you got 2.2 in return. This is not rocket science, but it's a good figure to tell managers that it is a good investment. And then another thing this report shows is the benefits of working towards a high prevention level in health and safety. And in this circle of benefits, as we call it, almost every manager that we have had on these courses, from CEO to a floor level management, they can find some of these benefits that is a good idea or for them. So this benefit, for example, in Denmark, attracting and retaining skilled employees is a growing concern. For some of the CEOs, investors' confidence, brand value, winning and retaining customers or clients are of importance. We as OHS professionals, we will focusing on being compliant with legislation, lower cost on accidents and illnesses, and so on. So we will focus on the health and safety part of it. But many of the managers, they find themselves in this circle of benefits. So this is a good way to get them engaged in the why. If we jump on to the what, the Vision Zero mindset is a very good mindset or a tool to work with managers. It's easy to understand, it's evidence-based, and we always start on asking the managers, what are the most important risk factors in your working environment? Is it safety, or is it in the area of well-being, psychosocial factors, or is it in the area of health, ergonomic factors, chemicals, or where do you think your most important risk factors are? And of course, you should focus on them on a daily basis in your department. So this holistic approach is also one of the things that we really like about the Vision Zero mindset, that it not just focus on accidents, but on the working environment as a whole. Another important thing that we work with in these courses with the management is this shift of mindset from a compliance, controlled mindset to a commitment or a Vision Zero mindset, where we want to work with our working environment towards a higher prevention level because we want to. It's a commitment, it's a good investment, it's not just because legislation says. So we have to shift our mindset from a control strategy to a commitment strategy. And so here are some examples on important areas where they can see what does it mean to have a commitment strategy and not being in a control strategy mode. For example, at the end here, employees are considered part of the problem. No, employees are considered a part of the solution, and you should invite them on a daily basis in dialogue on your working environment. So this is a part of this course as well. We also focus in this on being at a reactive level or a proactive level. For example, accidents and work-related sick leave are dealt with when they occur. This is a reactive mindset. No, accidents prevention and work-related sickness absence is already considered when designing and planning new projects and processes. So we have this mindset of doing risk assessments on a daily basis and when we are planning new things to happen. Then, of course, this course also focusing on moving upwards towards a higher prevention level. And in this journey, the management, what they have to do, and this we also finds very useful, the Vision Zero maturity scale model. This is, again, an easy to understand, 5 steps. The titles of the steps, they are easy to understand or comprehend for managers as well. Are we at a passive reactive level where we react when things happen, or are we active, maybe just in words, not that much in action, or are we at the proactive level where we really try to prevent things from happening? And of course, our aim, our goal is to be at least at a proactive level. And if we are to move up this, management must lead the way. And if the managers, they go home from this course doing the same as they did before they arrived at the course, nothing will happen. They will be the same. So we try to make them aware of they need to do something differently. And to help them with this, we have different tools that we use to guide them or inspire them to get some ideas on what can I do differently in the area of the working environment when I come back to my area of responsibility. There's from safety science research, focusing on being a role model. What does that mean? Not just in words, but also in action on a daily basis. Be aware of the sufficient resources in working with health and safety, not just time, but also competencies, communication and finance, of course. Be aware of acknowledge good behavior and address misconduct or bad behavior in the area of health and safety. Be aware of communication on a regular basis on the goals that you are working with in the area with the working environment. Engage in dialogue with your employees and try to integrate the proactive health and safety mindset in all activities. This is the answers if we ask safety science researchers. These are important focus. We have tried to translate this into a manager's checklist with the 7 golden rules. You probably know them. At the course, having time for the managers to share knowledge or reflect on how am I doing being a role model. Talk to each other, getting good ideas. The 7 golden rules is a checklist where you can look, what does it mean to be a manager? Health and safety role model. Are we focusing on our most important risk factors or not? Do we have sufficient resources, time, skills, and finances? Do we know our roles and responsibilities? Are that clear? Not just for me as a manager, but also for my employees. Do we have the prevention mindset when we plan and delegate operations and new tasks? Do we have the relevant competencies to handle our most important risk factors? Or are we lacking some knowledge if we want to work at a high prevention level? And finally, but not least, the involvement of the employees. How do I involve my employees in the talks of the working environment? Do they come to me with things they have seen? How do I address this? How do I invite them to be involved? This is some ideas they get. And finally, at the course, there are time for them to make a personal plan. So they have time for the course. Some of the courses are divided into more days. So they have a home assignment where they do this plan. They come back and they have some feedback on their personal plan. And again, this is important areas that they need to focusing on. How can my employees, colleagues see me as a role model on safety, both in words and actions? This is one of them they focus a lot of time on. How to ensure sufficient resources. How can I visibly acknowledge good behavior? How can I do that on a regular basis? All the people that are following the rules have a good behavior in the area of the working environment or health and safety. How can I be clear about health and safety goals? And so on. This just to give you an example on these personal plans, and sometimes they differ from different industries because they have companies different focus areas that they would like to have the managers to be more visible in, more going into actions on a daily basis. The important thing in this is that these plans are to be discussed and shown to their immediate manager. So I think this is very important if we not just get an inspiring day and then they go home and they forget about this. Their immediate manager will ask for the plan. Set up a meeting where they discuss the plan. And I think many of us, if our boss wants something done, I do it. Otherwise, I might be in trouble. So this is my brief presentation on working with Golden Rule number 1, management, engagement, and commitment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lars, for these insights on how to get the leaders on board and how you work with them and what questions can be asked to get them involved and committed. Thank you very much. So now I'm switching roles because the next presentation is on one specific industry example. Yes. So, I would like to introduce to you our Vision Zero strategy with the goal of reducing fault accidents in transportation, especially in truck drivers, while they work with commercial vehicles. A driver's job is dangerous. That's a good part of their work happens on the road, so road safety, of course, is an issue because they participate in traffic. But most people do not think about the part when they are not on the road, when they load, unload, and so on, when they get up onto superstructures and work with their work equipment, their truck. And so the truck itself is not just the driver's workplace, it's also his or her equipment and their working tool. And so this workplace bears many risks, especially drivers often work alone, and so today I would like to focus about the part or on the part that goes beyond the driving itself. Slipping, stumbling, stepping backwards, bang, it happened. Every year, 10% of all work-related accidents registered with my insurance institution, the BG Verkehr, are fall incidents, and of those, 2/3 occur while working with commercial vehicles. We observe the majority of these incidents in road haulage, but they're also very common in waste collection and in furniture movers. And this is why we at the BG Verkehr decided to focus on this type of incident in our Vision Zero efforts. Incidents occur when drivers get in and out of the truck, when they work on a loading area, when they clean windshields, mirrors, or cameras, when they get on and off of superstructures of their truck. They step into the void while loading and unloading. They slide or fall off ladders while climbing up or trying to access superstructures. They slip when they get in and out of the truck, for instance. So for today, suffice it to say, there are many risks for falling from the truck. So what did we do to work towards zero incidents in that area? We used the Vision Zero approach because it's people-oriented and it facilitates a sustainable impact on the culture of prevention in all levels of the company. And we combined it with elements that we think are critical to influence people's behavior, and our approach contains 7 sequential steps of areas that we focused on, which foster both individual and organizational improvements. So first, you have to capture attention. You have to get people interested in the topic. Second, you have to raise awareness. So you need to build an understanding why the topic is a topic, why is it a problem. You have to create acceptance, get buy-in and address concerns to open up for change. You have to impart knowledge, meaning you have to educate people and lay the groundwork for action. You have to influence attitudes. So you shape values by repeated exposure, emotional engagement, and make sure that those values become people's identity. You have to encourage behavioral change, enforce wanted behavior, ensure that leaders really walk the talk. And you have to modify conditions, meaning leadership commitment, but also policies. So that means we need a multi-level approach, and we heard over the last days many examples of that sort of multi-level approach from Luxembourg and Malaysia and so on, and I'm happy now to share with you what we did in Germany. So for our roadmap to zero falls, we combined a strong promotion of existing preventive measures. This type of accident is not new. People have been falling from trucks for many years. So we used and reinforced those preventive measures that are already in place. We set recommendations, and we also combine that with new approaches to prevention. So the first step was to get our labor inspectors on board. So we needed good internal communication for our prevention experts and labor inspectors. So we collected and provided data and figures to create a knowledge base, to really make sure they know the statistics, they know the figures and the facts. We organized workshops with them and seminars to convey information and get the conversation going inside our institution. And then the last step was to brainstorm with them to see what input they have, what they need to bring the topic into the companies that they go to and consult. And so with this first step, the internal communication, so to say, we addressed our first target group and tried to capture their attention, raise awareness, foster acceptance, convey information, and that we did repeatedly. In terms of focus for supervision and consultancy, we focused on 2 prevention areas for our labor inspectors and in our statistical work and so on, and compiled the OHS standards for those 2 areas. And I'm not going to go into the details of what that specifically means. Just for now, so that you know, we have 2 focal areas, the loading platform, tail lifts, and superstructures. And we combined technical measures, such as standards and how ascents and stairs must be built, with organizational and personal measures, such as review, work processes, but also instructions, and so on. The second topic that came out of our statistics was that many accidents occur when drivers get in and out. That's why we focused on that second area, so safe entering and exiting the vehicle. And also here we compiled all the critical information that we wanted to convey regarding safe access to the cab, to use them later in different approaches. And that's what I would like to talk about now. All these details, these recommendations were summarized in various media and materials for different target groups. So for example, we developed this brochure that you see here on the left to support the purchase of new trucks. It guides employers in procurement for new vehicles based on the later use of the vehicle and the risk assessment, and so makes sure that the proper tool, in this case the truck, is purchased and is not only safe for the road, but it's also safe to work with. To facilitate safety instructions done by OHS experts or training by the employer, we have a series of short instruction videos to invite the conversation about the typical dangers, but also educate or help them educate their employees on how to work safely. Additionally, we have instruction cards, which is just a simple 1 piece of paper that has all the critical information, so very simple, lots of pictures. Or another thing was proper footwear is often a problem. They like to wear flip-flops and sandals and stuff like that, so we created a little sticker here that reminds them that they need to wear proper footwear. And so with all these different kinds of materials for different target groups, our intention was also to bring the topic to them, raise the awareness, create acceptance, but also educate and convey knowledge for employers and employees, so different target groups. So the next and more tricky step is additionally shape values by repeated exposure and emotional engagement, and also to ensure leaders' commitment. So that work conditions and also the culture in the company can change. And so for that, we met with leaders, managers, and OHS experts at trade fairs, for instance. We gave presentation and talks, participated in panel discussions with leaders and policymakers in the audience. We also produced a whole bunch of different publications, articles on the topic to just get the topic in their mindset over and over again so that they realize it is still a topic and we are still talking about it. Other activities that are either done or still going on is that we had projects to analyze the state of knowledge, so look beyond Germany, what do other countries do to prevent that kind of accident, but also produced a little quiz that gives it a more interactive way of how to approach the topic, or a little video that illustrates the Vision Zero approach to 7 golden rules, specifically for the transportation industry, so that it's easier for them to identify with the contents. And we also produce several promotion materials, little calendars. Every month you get an idea of how to safely work with the truck and stuff like that. And then last but not least, and I'm especially proud of that part, we organized an industry conference, which resulted, due to the presence of my colleague Evelyn Jonkeren, into a standardization project. And so now we have a project going on in standardization that addresses the safety of workplaces on vehicle superstructures, requirements for access ladders, access points, and fall protection systems. And that is one of those steps where we can address policies additionally. So what's still in the pipeline? We are not quite done yet with our activities. The next steps are that we are having a little campaign that is especially for safe access, which addresses again the safe procedure when ascending onto and descending from superstructures. It will address both the safe design, but also how to use the aids properly. And we will work with problems with the loading area, silo vehicles, and also crane superstructures. So very specifically, the areas that came out of our statistical analysis where we have most accidents. And then the second is that we want to use real-world examples, real incidents or accidents that happened, where we illustrate not only the cause of the accident, technically, organizationally, personally, but also the resulting consequence, both human and financially, to show, to illustrate what the results are and how they can be prevented. And then last but not least, we are beginning to create a seminar for managers especially, and safety professionals and employers, that will provide information on their individual and shared responsibilities in prevention, again using real accidents that will be examined in the seminar to discuss the root causes of it and also discuss effective prevention strategies and also the importance of leadership in shaping the safety culture. And with that, I would like to thank my colleagues. That's, of course, many people are involved in such a process. And yeah, thank you for your attention. And now I will switch back to the other role. So, and I'm happy to welcome our next speaker, Anna Malikov. He's a highly respected expert with nearly 30 years of experience in occupational safety and health and quality management. Mr. Malikov is a chartered member of IOSH and a fellow of both IIRSM and CQI. I practiced that, but it's not coming across. Bringing extensive expertise from multiple industries. For the past 9 years, he has led TCS, a professional learning and development organization delivering tailored OSH training solutions that meet industry needs. And today he will address the quality of OSH training and the pressing challenges in ensuring effective knowledge transfer. Please welcome with me, Anna Malikov.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, first of all, and Quality is actually something very subjective. Actually, it depends on what we expect. But talking about OHS training, actually, we are training people to be safer. If we are training people and they are safer, actually, we are meeting the training quality standards. And if we do it for just compliance, I think that's something we're missing there. I've overall 30 years plus experience in health and safety and quality, and lately doing the overall OHS trainings, personally delivering myself. I'm working with lots of accreditation bodies internationally. So there are really good systems worldwide, especially in developed countries, when we talk about the accreditations and health and safety requirements for training. And on the other hand, we also have lots of other gaps, and maybe we don't say problems, but we say areas for improvement in the field of training worldwide. So, for example, developing countries and maybe developing industries can be a good example. Saying all that, there are a couple of actually a number of them I brought up for my presentation today, and probably with its solutions as well. So when training is driven by regulation instead of risk, we meet the rules but miss the point. That's one of the biggest challenges we have, especially with legal requirements and regulatory requirements standards. We try to comply more rather than actually find out what we are up against, what's the risk, what we need to train the employees. So that's why the process starts actually with the training needs analysis. And every year in our organization, actually, we train over 10,000 employees from different sectors. And we speak to OHS professionals, and we speak to the trainees every time they come back, and the different organizations actually trying to find out how can best we can arrange these sessions. And what we find out is most of the training providers actually trying to meet the standards and meet the accrediting body requirements. But when it comes to internal trainings, in-house trainings, that's where the problem starts. Actually, we can feel it from the booking of the trainings. We can feel it from the defining what is really required. And when you ask a question, you realize, no, the training needs analysis isn't done properly, or it's not been done at all. It's just to cover certain requirements and compliance. So I won't read the slides, but the main topic for this, the first one is the training needs analysis. Is actually those are doing these analysis. They need to understand what activities they are doing and what the risks they are up against, in line with the legal requirements or regulatory requirements, so they can align the requirements and find out what trainings they need, and do they need to change these trainings at all? Because on the next slide is actually one size fits all. We can't use the same training, same confined space training in all sectors, aren't we? So we train people on confined space. Oil and gas is different. Construction is different. Recently we start training like as per the GISHW requirements, Global Wind Organization, and the confined space in the wind turbines. It's completely different. And so can we use the same training materials and same approach in trying to avoid the risks? I don't think it's possible, or it will be successful. So not tailoring for sector-specific risks or procedures is probably trying to, again, understanding the risk, actually the activity, and having the system in place to cover organizational risks, and it's actually first place its activities and hazards before finding out what the risk levels are. Because at the end of the day, the training is a solution. Training is actually one of the hierarchy, one of the steps in the hierarchy of control, trying to control the risks. And weak design and delivery. Training should be transformation rather than being presentation. So most of the in-house trainings, unfortunately, it's slides or nowadays with the use of technology, we do a lot of CBTs, computer-based trainings, in other words, e-learning, for example. And again, there's a training needs analysis, one size, one training fits for all the purposes. And there we have design issues, whether it's online or offline trainings, because training needs to be interactive. Training needs to be covering the real requirements, and it needs to make it needs to be effective on site. It needs to change the attitude or behavior of the trainee taking the training, and most of the time. Not mainly in accredited trainings, our providers, they try to keep the subject matter experts and train the training programs for their trainees, and actually trying to keep the standards, how you can best involve the engaged learners. But unfortunately, in organizations, and mostly, even in developed countries, what you see is, the best scenario, health and safety professionals are providing the training, which is good. At least they know they're subject matter experts. But when it comes to engaging employees, engaging trainees, or making the sessions interactive, and this actually, that's where the gaps, areas we have, which needs to be improved. If training doesn't reach the job site, it hasn't reached the worker. So there is definitely needs a strong bridge between the work site and the training and the trainer. Because if the training center or the training organization or whoever is doing the training does not been to site or does not know what's happening on site, or the vice versa. So if that doesn't change the worker attitude, so it's not gonna change anything. It's not gonna be effective. So we can't call it the quality training. So disconnection from workplace behavior, training is completed but not lived in the field. So it's just another session. Sometimes it does not go to work site. So safety habits are not monitored or corrected. We do training, but the ISO 45001, even ISO 9001 clearly requires the post-training evaluation. So how far do we worldwide in the organization we do evaluate how the effectiveness of the training delivered. So behavioral observation and maybe coaching, maybe every post-training, if we do evaluate, we'll probably find out that we need a coaching, we need on-site activities to back up what we have given them in the classroom or in the training center. Learning not linked to supervision or procedures, so we need to look at what's procedure requirement, the process requirements, because again, the standard says to implement the process approach. So if we're talking about the process, we're talking about the procedures, requirements, internal requirements. So what's the point giving the training? It's not aligned with the procedure, company organization procedure. So it's outside of reality. That's how I would call it, those training sessions. And institutional and system gaps, some countries, some underdeveloping, especially countries. I know especially in Europe, in developed countries, there are really good standards, training programs, approvals, like education systems, a lot of accrediting bodies on different sites, or standards. Even the guidance notes, you can find out the standards. For example, one of the standards I can give, the crane operation, it gives you clearly at the end of the standard, so what the competency requirement you need to expect, you can expect from the crane operator, for example, or other skills. I just brought the example. So institutional and system gaps is actually these organizations need to define the areas for improvement and find out what standards need to be developed. Because some countries I work, because as I mentioned, I did work internationally in many different countries and industries. And when you notice there's no standard how the OSH training should be or must be, for example, it's actually and the standards are very general, and it tells you need to have a training, you need to do this, you need to do that. It's very general, but clearly having the direction or steps to follow or standards to follow, unfortunately, most countries or in sectors is not there. Especially when saying sector, I mean agriculture sector is one of these areas. It needs attention. We certify equipment and inspect PPE, but we don't verify who trains people to use them. So we buy all expensive stuff. So who use them? How they use them? And cultural and organizational barriers, because as again, to have the learners to be interested in your training sessions, it's parallel with the organizational and the countrywide safety culture, because safety is seen as a compliance in most areas, not culture. OSH training as a low visibility and priority is like some areas is like just a requirement. You know, the legislative requirements. You need to do this job. You must undergo this training, and most of the time it's like it's a tick box exercise. And here's some solutions. I think not being negative, but there are a lot of good things. But someone need to tell these things, need to speak about these things. Set the framework, define OSH training quality, and I think establish, national organizational OSH training frameworks, define trainer competency. So those needs to have, in some countries actually have very good, very best practices. So they categorize health and safety professionals and trainers who can train what, for example. Firstly, they need to have the trainer skills and experience, and plus subject matter expert requirements. So to what level and which expert or trainer can deliver the training. It's okay when doing this for training providers because they follow the accrediting body's requirements, and believe everybody does that. But in house trainings, it's really a requirement. Approved training providers through accreditation or licensing is some sort of a requirement, some sort of arrangements needs to be put in place, I believe locally. Include methods to measure training effectiveness and follow up. So what's the effectiveness? What did that training gave us? For example, how many lives it saved? What was the effectiveness? So without a framework, training quality is left to chance. Design for reality, reflect the work, not a classroom. So base content on the tasks, risks, not titles, use practical active learning, demo, simulate, involve learners. Adapt to worker context, literacy, language, environment, reinforce learning on site through coaching or toolbox talks. So if training doesn't match the work, so it won't change the worker. So that's the end message for it. And align with organizational safety goals, training is effective when it drives performance. So if it doesn't connect the training to safety KPIs and incident trends, so what was the outcome of the training? Make supervisors and managers part of the learning loop. So they need to actually see the materials. So what the training actually consists of, what syllabus, what content, what activities, does it gonna cure the risk or solve the problems on site? So link learning outcomes to behavior and operational results. Use Vision Zero as a cultural anchor, not just a campaign. So training isn't complete when the session ends. It's complete when it improves safety. So about Vision Zero, it's not just about eliminating accidents, it's about building a mindset. That mindset begins with training. Because it's a human we're trying to protect. If we're trying to protect the human, we need to make sure the human understands the risks they are against to. because there's no other options, because if that's a risk perception. It's the same as a child, the child doesn't understand the risk and they take every risk. And that's, we know from our families, from ourselves. But adult is different, because they have some perception, they have some understanding. But that's where mostly when we lack the perception and the information about the risk we are against, so it becomes normal. So if you want safer workplaces, don't ask, did we deliver the training? Ask instead, did the training deliver safe behavior? That's the shift we need from ticking boxes to transforming cultures. There's one another thing I want to mention just before I complete my speech. We've recently, last couple of years, as part of my research, I found out that there's a lot of graduates joining our organization, join different organizations, coming from the universities. Some of them go into apprenticeship from the school, but not necessarily with some safety mindset. I think we need to, with the training in mind, we need to step back, and I think we can think going to universities, going to schools, and giving them the basic knowledge. So in that, from that perspective, we've enrolled one syllable, Foundation of Safety, at the universities for all professions, economy, engineers, because those will end up on site, on the organization, on the field. So without having a mindset, an initial mindset, so you can't do it's difficult to teach them further, actually to train them further. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for sharing insights on how to improve the quality of OSH training. And that concludes our inputs for this afternoon. And before we move on to the discussion, we have to do a little bit of arrangement up here. So that gives everybody a minute to let it sink in what you just heard. And we get the chairs up here.
Thank you, Nadia. And whilst the chairs are, Nadia said to spend the minute relaxing, but if I could ask you to spend the minute coming up with some questions, that would be even better.
Sorry.
No, I have questions of my own, but if you've got questions, that would be wonderful. No pressure.
There is no microphone over there. So I could, but you stay here?
Yeah.
I'm sitting here.
Nadia's going to stay with me, but you're still part of the still part of the panel.
That's okay.
I'm still going to ask you for answers. Brilliant, thank you. Right, so I'm looking at everyone in the audience. Has anyone got any questions after what they've heard in the last hour? Anybody? Well, I'll go with one of mine, and then if something strikes you, pop your hand up. So, if I could ask you all to begin with, what are the key strategies for driving behavioural change that not only initiates those safer practices, but it also embeds them as permanent habits within organisational culture? So, can I start with you, Nadia, as you're closest to me?
Yeah, I was worried about that part, actually. Maybe I should move over after all. So I think it must be a message with many voices. So you have to adjust the message that you want to convey to your target group. And that was the experience that we had with our industry. It's a very different issue if you talk to the leader than to the manager, or if you talk to the truck driver themselves. And so to make sure that you have sort of a similar message, of course, the target group needs kinds of different messages. The leader wants to hear about the return on investment and what do they gain if they actually implement a good safety culture. The managers want to see how that works on the floor and how that improves the continuity of the processes, less interruptions, that they are responsible. And then the truck driver themselves, they need to hear why that's important for them, because they want to go home safe, they want to see their families at night and so on. So you have to make it on one level very personal, very adjusted to the target group, to their horizon or their experience, but then at the same time have basically the same message with different voices.
I love that, the same message with different voices. That's like a tagline. No, I love it. Lars.
Well, a couple of days ago, we had this great workshop on metrics, and 3 key elements came out of this, and I think it's resonate with this question. And one of them is management engagement. This is evidence-based. We need to get them on board, and not just managers being appointed to health and safety committee, but from top management down to management on the shop floor. And then I think the shift of mindset from focusing on reaching compliance. I think compliance should be the floor we move from up. So we need to shift from compliance to commitment, because we want to do this. And then we talked a lot about moving the reactive mindset to a proactive mindset, doing it with leading indicators. So focusing on health and safety goals that shows us the way, be on a regular basis, focusing on communicating these leading indicators. This is 3 key elements that will, in place, I think, change behavior to a more proactive mindset.
Thank you, Lars. I'm writing notes furiously. Anna.
I look at it a bit from international perspective, and because there are best practices, there are areas needs to be improved, and but one message is the same all the time, because we always say the culture starts from the leadership. But to make the health and safety of the interest of the leadership, I think there are some solutions required, likes of insurance policies, for example. Because because the first priority always becomes for leaders, for business owners, is actually to make the business successful. So if the risk and health and safety is the center of that priority, so we can't. I mean, I disagree with saying prioritizing, because every time you prioritize something, is another thing is left behind. So you can't put the safety first, because environmental qualities becomes on the other side. So it actually becomes on the center of the interest of the business interest, trying to make the business successful. Then I think the culture will be developed and will come automatically, because it's in line with the business interests. In some countries there are good examples for it, but in many countries that systems needs to be developed, I believe.
Thank you. I think that's a really valid point. When you do prioritise something in people's minds, does that push it forwards above all those other things? So no, absolutely. Thank you. And Sylvester, from your perspective,
it's not so easy to answer this question from university side, because it's a little bit another world. 2 worlds. We have the employees and we have the students. The employees, okay, that's a little bit like in the industry, but what is the benchmark for a professor? It's not money, it's not the number of accidents, it's the impact factor. That's interesting. And the students, for example, how you want to look for a return on prevention for a student. It's not so easy, and so I think it's another world, and we must look. Sometimes I think perhaps it's time for 7 golden rules of Vision Zero for teaching students, because it's another world, and perhaps it would be a first step when we have 7 golden rules for our teaching the students, and then we have the chiefs of tomorrow, and then they come with another aspect into the work. Perhaps that's an idea.
I like that. I like that a lot. Thank you. Thank you for that. I have got more questions, but before I go with these, has anyone got anything to ask? You want to hear mine, don't you? Okay. So second question. And this, I'll start with you first this time, Sylvester. You'll be delighted to hear, Nadia. So Sylvester, so this probably resonates with what you were saying. How can that safety message, how can safety leaders tailor their messages to those different audiences? I mean, obviously for yourself, you know, the lecturers, the students, and you know, for everybody else, it's you know, boardroom, middle management, frontline workers. But how can we ensure that those safety messages, that message of Vision Zero, becomes a shared language, and something that's got strategic priority across the different areas? Is that hard?
Nearby the same in universities. We have not the big one leader, a CEO or so. University has not. We have the institutes, we have the clinics in the medical sciences, and they are the leaders for people, for employees, but not for the students. The students want to learn something from him. They do all what they want, but that's all. We have not the same like in the industry that we can speak with them and look for the next 20 years. A student has 4 years, and then you want to go back. And so it's not so easy. This leadership we haven't at students. Everyone is in Germany we say Ich AG, is a self-achieve for himself. He only looks at his own one. And we have no leaders under the students. We have the professor, he says what they have to learn, but not more. What more is not allowed for him. He could say me, you must come tomorrow at 8 o'clock to work. A student has no work. He comes or he comes not. At the end of the semester, at the end of the year, when they have their notes, then they must know all. Not in the year, they must not come to university. They come end of the year, and that's all.
Okay. We're back to those 7 golden rules for students again. That's a good argument. I'm listening, yeah. Brilliant, thank you. Anna?
Yeah, I think you actually mentioned the answer. The shared language is very important. I think something like Vision Zero. I mean, I like in recent years in oil and gas sector, actually before they had all different golden rules, maybe one or big organization had the 10 golden rules, another one had 9 golden rules, another one had 8 golden rules. So what I liked is actually they found the common language under OIGP, and actually they have it's life-saving rules now. So which is a common language, it provides a common message, regardless of where you work, actually what you do. So it still delivers the same message. I think it's important because make sure that everybody's on the same page. It's a working at height, it is a risk in any part of the world. It's not just in one place and not important in the other place. So I think thinking the same vision is important.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Lars?
A difficult question, I think. Some of it is easy to answer, but again, it's not working yet, so maybe it's difficult to fulfill. I think, again, as Anna told us in his presentation, I totally agree. You need to align your communication to the people you're talking to. So if it's top management or the employees on the shop floor, you need to... What are their benefits of a good working environment? I just attended a session on well-being where Ralf Franke from Siemens told how they persuaded the CEO in Siemens for 310,000 employees to put in 15 questions on psychosocial factors in their engagement survey. And they could show evidence-based from Oxford that it paid off. People who had higher mental health were more efficient, had lesser percentage of sick leave, so on. And the CEO said, super, let's do it. And then they put in what I would call lagging indicators on the surveys from different departments. If you were below a figure of 80 or something like this, then you needed to do something about it. And you were help from HR and the health and safety professionals. So the managers had help in reaching a higher level. And another thing, Danish research science have just shown that if you integrate health and safety in your business strategy, so it's spoken value, then you have this spoken value, but of course you need to transform this into daily actions or efforts. But companies in Denmark who have done this have fewer accidents.
Brilliant, and thank you for that brilliant example as well. I wasn't in that session, but I think that's one that I will go and look for afterwards. And Nadia?
I admit the shared language seems sometimes difficult depending on the industry, because you have to find different approaches for the different personalities, the different people, the different responsibilities. So I like to think about it more in terms of shared attitude or a shared identity. So that's how we do stuff around here. This is how we work. And that expresses itself maybe in different ways at different levels, that managers make sure that they are not taking shortcuts, that they're really walking the talk, that they are leading by good example, and that managers or the leaders walk the talk, and that managers put the schedules in a way so that the drivers, for instance, to stick with my example, are not invited to jump out of the truck. So that there's really the attitude, we do have the time to actually step down the ladder. We are not jumping. There's no need to. And then also maybe by peer-to-peer supervision, that more senior workers remind others, the junior ones, this is not what we do here, and that's not acceptable, and also show them. And so I think we were successful if they really see that as their identity in terms of, this is how we do it here, and that's not what we not do here. So
I really like that. Different people, different personalities, but same identity. That's shared. Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
finally.
I love this. Evelyn, question.
Yes, here we go. Because your question inspired me to a question. How can we tailor our message to different audiences? I have a question specifically for Anar and Lars. I hope the other two don't mind, because you have experience in teaching and coaching companies or specialists. Do you have experience with a multicultural workforce, like different people coming from different countries? And if so, would you like to share some of your experiences in that respect, particularly in the context of how to tailor your message to different audiences, and whether you would like to share some of that with us?
I jump in first. Yes, actually, I did work as a health and safety professional in a multicultural environment. I can say, starting from Australia, New Zealand, I wouldn't count all of these countries, the mega projects, like especially in Middle East, in oil and gas, you got different special tasks that is famous in, for example, in a country. They come for installation or repairs or different purposes. So on the work site, yes, they have a different, as a culture difference plays a great role. So you have to be able to actually speak up, not in the same language. So yes, language is different, but by the language here, I mean the mindset. So what they bring themselves, need to be able to assess what you're up against or what the preparation level is. For example, what is the culture back home? So where you need to start from. So it's no point to actually go and talk to someone who has never obeyed any safety rules or put any hard hat, for example. It also actually sets the level of the communication and sets the level of the mindset where you'll provide them. And then in the training especially, just before coming to Japan, we had the GISHW training, and we worked with the Chinese company, and there's a lot of Chinese professionals from China come for wind turbines. And we were said they all speak English, but in the training we realized nobody speaks English actually, and we don't speak Chinese. So it's a fundamental mindset, and culture is a key, need to be understood first, both on site and for the training. And the other thing I think one of the other things is a language, to be honest, and especially the body language. I mean, I personally will share one example from my own experience. I was teaching a class and training, and it was multicultural. One group sits there, like 5 people, and everything I say is like that. You know, it's you ask a question and no answer. Do you have a question? No. And I said that they or I'm doing bad training, or they don't understand me at all. There's something is wrong there. But when it came to the practice and the test result, they all have above 90%. That was shocking. And then to realize this, unfortunately, it's a reactive attitude. You realize it when you come across it. But it's a culture that the culture dictates them not to speak in front of your teacher. You need to be silent. But that does not necessarily mean they don't know anything about it, which I thought initially, the wrong perception. And lately I realized, no, it's not. It's they understand that they're good at what they're doing, but it's a cultural thing. Just one of the examples. I'm sure I did at least partially answered the question.
Well, I'm more or less aligned with Anna. I think I was thinking on this lost in translation. I think it's so important that you're focusing on not, well, if English is company language, then don't be sure of everybody understand this. There will be so much in this teaching in health and safety that will get lost in translation if you only work with English and you have employees from many different countries. Try to make sure that at least some of the instruction or the training materials are provided in their own language as well. I think this is important.
And just want to add one key thing here. It's not really it's language, it's the message you want to pass. Even sometimes you say it's in their language, but it doesn't mean anything to them. Even, you know, like small jokes or small examples, you're trying to make the training more formal, like more interactive. But you say it in one group, everybody laughs, and you know that's clear, everyone, and they go blind, they're freezing. So that tells you the message is not delivered.
Another, I don't know answers, but ideas on this. When we work with this, it's for companies who works with different nationalities or have offices or factories in different countries. Then they typically know a lot about the differences in culture we need to be aware of. So this dialogue with the company before we start. One training doesn't fit all. I think you mentioned that as well, Anna. So we have to be sure that it's aligned with the different cultures, and the companies themselves can help us with this. But it's an important talk with them before we start, not just buy a course that we take from the shelf and then put it out, but have this debate as well. I think this, and their literacy skills, the ones you are teaching or instruction, the lower their skills, the more practical the training, the more where they work. I think this is important as well.
Great answers. Thank you, everybody. And if there's nothing else, no further questions,
Alison, I just had one because, you know, in Denmark, actually, we have a national strategy on the health and safety or the working environment, on accidents, economics, psychosocial factors, and in the area of chemistry. And then they have looked at different industries in Denmark, and the one that have the most accidents, they have been pointed out to do something in a 10-year period. On accidents, actually, the police in Denmark, they have too many accidents. And in some area of the police where they have too many accidents are the police schools. And I was thinking of you, Sylvester. And they have been trying to make some training, Vision Zero, with the Vision Zero mindset. And what I found out, being part of this, is that the instructors or the teachers actually are the managers for the pupils, I think. So they must be role models. It was so clear that the instructors who were old-fashioned in the training, they had a lot of accidents with cheese and stuff like this, and arms, and when they said warm up, stretching before we start, no, we don't, just go ahead, then more accidents. If they weren't, you know, their PPE are protection of their teeth before they start training. If they allowed pupils to start, or students to start training without these, then of course they had. And it could have been avoided. So I think the teachers actually should be seen as managers and of course as role models. Mm-hmm. Because they bear the culture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In Germany we have many accidents at the fire departments. Playing football, that not at work. Yeah, the fire departments, they must make sports, and they play football, and that's the most accidents they have. That's such a big, and the rest is here.
You can always add things like that, Lars and Sylvester. Always welcome. Brilliant. Well, it just leaves it for me to say thank you, Sylvester. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Lars. And an extra big thank you to Nadia as well, my co-moderator. And thank you for all attending as well. Okay.